Hello out there, and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Frazier. Holy cow, it's been like 3 weeks since we've done one of these, ladies and gentlemen. Feels like an eternity. Been busy, been traveling. Anybody that follows No Shit Cast online, you'll see pictures of me in my engineering garb out doing the things I do, which generally is sticking caffeinated, fuzzy, sweetened liquids in bottles for people to consume. So I'm back. I'm going to be recording a couple podcasts here coming up over the next couple days. The Gray Wizard of Historical Knowledge himself, Mr. Eric Smith, is threatening to come back on. Stand by, folks. That will be coming up. We'll be doing a podcast with the Occidental Taoist, Mr. Jeff Cody himself. He wants to come and talk about, he just started playing guitar, and it's been, he and I have been talking back and forth about the art of learning how to play guitar. But Jeff's a very accomplished musician, so this is really for him, it's just kind of picking up the techniques of playing another instrument. And I'm going to have him on, and we're going to talk about newbie guitar stuff. Should be a ball of fun, so stand by for that. But ladies and gentlemen, great show coming up for you tonight. An old and dear friend of mine, Mr. Barnett, Mike Barnett, is standing by here on the phone. Mike's going to come on and talk to us. A couple months ago, Mike messaged me and had told me that he had started into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And if I remember right, and I'm sure Mike will clarify this for us, but he had been in it for a while. And then it turns out that there's kind of a really interesting story that goes behind his journey into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it has to do with I would say a complication that those of us who pursue the art don't normally have to deal with. And I'm going to get him to talk about that a little bit. But he's a good friend of mine. He's an old Navy buddy and a veteran, folks. And welcome him on my show. Mr. Mike Barnett, how the hell you doing tonight, buddy?
Oh, man, I'm doing great, man. How you been?
I'm living the dream, man. I get to do this kind of stuff with cool people like you. It's awesome. So let's talk about this message that you had sent me a while back. Now, I think you had said you'd been talking with our mutual friend and Navy buddy, Jeff Cody, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And that was kind of a low point for you, I think, is at the time, right? You were sort of wrestling with what's going on with your vision. Can you kind of elaborate on how this has come together for you a little bit?
What happened was back probably beginning of last year, I got diagnosed with age-related macular degeneration disease, which normally doesn't hit people until they're like 60s and 70s. Well, here I'm sitting at 48, and it's already starting to hit me. When I first got diagnosed with it, I was having a vision about 20/50, 20/60 in both eyes. I already had bad vision with astigmatism, but nothing like to the severity what I have now. So last November, I went in for another checkup, and because they're suggesting that the ophthalmologist is suggesting that I have a checkup every twice a year, pretty much, because of everything that's going on with me.
Okay.
So I've been seeing a retinal specialist and everything. So it's just been kind of an up and down kind of deal what was going on. So within 6 months after my November checkup, I went from a 20/60 to a 2200 on my right eye, and then from a 20/60 to a 20/80 in my left eye.
So it's progressing very fast.
Correct. Yes, and it's normally not like that. Normally, it takes time for a disease like that to form, and so now it's more like a speed up process of this disease.
Okay, so I know you had traveled down, I think it was to India. Where'd you go, Texas or something, to go down to see some specialists or something like that?
No, I went down to Tucson, Arizona this past summer. I didn't know about this, and yeah, correct. It was Tucson, Arizona this past summer. It was actually not the summer. It was actually, I'm correct here. It was in September. I went down there. October 12th. 12th is when I left, and I came back November 16th. I was under for almost a full month. They did various tests on my eyes and everything like that, and they kind of identified what I already knew because I've been following up on this disease like crazy. It is affecting me, so I need to know what I'm dealing with. And you just can't rely on one doctor's opinion. You got to kind of keep yourself informed of what's going on. So I did that, and what they told me down there is what I already knew. But they taught me a bunch of things on how to handle it. Because when I first got diagnosed and all my vision losing or my vision loss, it was it hit me hard because I lost my driving. I turned in my driving privileges because of my vision problem, because I didn't want to hurt myself or others.
Sure.
Primarily hurting others.
Sure.
So, and I turned in my privilege to drive probably beginning of last year. So it's been tough on the family because, now my wife has to pick up for everything that I used to be able to help her with.
Sure. Yeah. So it's kind of hitting you all at once here. This is all come to you like within a very short period of time, right?
Oh, it has. Like I said, I say within the last year and a half max. I was getting kind of frustrated. I didn't know how to handle it or what to do to express myself. So I kind of saw myself going down an angry road, if you want to call it, because I was angry with not with myself because there's nothing I could do, but why so early, that it happened.
And how, if you don't mind my asking, how old are you now?
I turned 48 this year.
48. Okay, I'm 46, so I'm 2 years younger than you. So I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at, a year and a half ago or something like that, right? And I've been sporadically attending, okay? The work schedule has a lot to do with that. But there was a phone call that took place, I think, where you were kind of searching for something, right? And I think you had talked with the Occidental Taoist, Jeff Cody. Shout out Jeff Cody. And you had kind of reasoned some stuff out, or sort of went through some questions and answers and stuff like that with him, and then he made the suggestion that you check out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wasn't it?
It was kind of a mutual agreement because I told him what was going on with my eyes and everything, and it was kind of an interesting conversation I had with him. I was telling him everything and how frustrated I was and what the kind of person I was turning into be, and that was never me. You know me back then, I was kind of a laid back, easy kind of going guy.
Oh, for sure.
And,
definitely.
I turned into more of an angry person because, like I said, it's not because things around me turned me that way. It was just everything I didn't know how to handle it. So I was kind of lashing out at people and things because I didn't know how to handle this situation, what was going on. So Jeff and I, kind of talked about it for a little bit, and he asked me what I was doing. So I was like, well, I'm kind of looking for something outside the realm of standard martial arts, learning a specific move, stuff with, that you have to learn visually. And because a lot of the older martial arts, or standard martial arts, if you want to say, is a lot of visual with a lot of technique with the visual, showing somebody coming in with a punch or a kick. And, I don't pick that up as well as I used to. So I kind of told him I've been looking at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he kind of thought that was a good idea just because of a matter of fact, it's a close range martial art, and it's more of a hands-on than more of a, throw a punch, throw a kick, do whatever you need to do. So I tried it out. I think it was about this time last year. I just found out that I'm hitting my year mark right now. I think within the next week or two.
Congratulations.
Of doing this, thanks. So it's been an upsy downsy road, but I have to say that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has really changed my attitude, just for the fact that it kind of gets me concentrated on what I need to do and focused on a better path for for what I say.
Now, would you say that there's a therapeutic benefit to it for you?
Oh, tremendous, because I can kind of focus the anger, and the frustration into to a point where I have to keep it focused to not, to do what I need to do in learning the art, and not to hurt anybody, whatever. But it relieves a lot of frustration out of it, because it is that physical motion of what you're doing. It's not more just an art form where you practice and everything. You're actually in there and you're grappling and you're rolling on the mat. I mean, it's just everything, but you're learning actually the technique of what you need to do.
Sure. And do you find that I mean, how do you translate, or how do they translate this to you physically over, because a lot of this stuff is taught by having the generally the professor and or one of the students or two of the students kind of demonstrate the move visually first, and then that gets translated into you pairing up and doing it, right? That's kind of the universal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu approach. So what have you had to change to kind of pick this stuff up where you can't necessarily see it as well? And what kind of I guess accommodations have they made, to kind of roll with you in that respect?
Well, kind of give you a background on macular first before we go on. Is the macular, basically what it does, it just ruins the center point of your vision. So if you would, to put it easy, it's like if you wear glasses, you put a dot in the center of your vision where you have to look up or down to see anything. That's me. And it really it really shows itself when I'm trying to read anything, or if I have to really focus on anything. So, but the problem is I still have that distance problem. So with that, I kind of get, it's kind of nice when they show it, but I can kind of get close in, and they show it, repeatedly, just in case I don't see it the first time. But it, like I said, it's the center point that's my Achilles heel right now. So if I kind of look up or left or right, I can kind of see what they're doing.
Okay.
But like I said, but my left eye is my right now is my grace, my savior, if you want to call it. It shows up. I can see a little bit. I see better out of that, which was funny. It used to be my worst eye. Granted, I'm seeing 20/80, 20/90 out of it right now. And but like I said, I can get close enough on the mat where I can see exactly what they're doing. And if I don't understand it, like, hey, I didn't see that. Great. Can you please show me again? So it's really helpful because they'll take their time and do it. And then when we partner up, then I can actually incorporate it to what I saw to what is actually what I'm doing. And if something doesn't make sense, then I can at least work through it physically, in person, besides just watching somebody doing it and trying to learn it that way.
That's really cool, and I think it's probably worth mentioning the school and your professor, right? Given that you've been there a year, so at the very least, but that they're working with you through this and stuff. So where are you going, and who and under whom do you train?
Yeah, the school I go to is Abide Jiu-Jitsu here in Boise, and my professor, I cannot pronounce his last name, so I'll just use his first name. His first name is Brad. He's a great guy. He's like one of the most technical instructors I've ever met. Even there's a guy that he's a purple belt that I train under too, and he speaks highly of Brad also, how technical he is. So there's two people that kind of show it for the classes and everything, but they're both great instructors. The other one I train with is Dustin. He's a purple belt, and but they're both really, really good. And I kind of told them what was going on with my eyes and everything, and they understood, and so they're really open to what the needs for me, but it's not like I'm super needy. I just need, a little bit more lead time on what I see when they, when they show it than what most other people do. And if I have a question or anything like that, they're really good about showing me, I didn't do it this way, this right, or my arm wasn't here, my leg wasn't here. But like I said, I can't complain. These guys have been phenomenal.
That's really cool, man. I guess can you kind of walk through, or do you remember your first experience going into class?
Yeah, my first experience was on a Thursday night, man. It was it was the winter of last year, and it was about the same time. I got into this. I didn't know what I was doing, just like, I was like, whoa, what am I doing here? Kind of like deer in the headlight look, like, what am I getting myself into? And the guy I was kind of training with was like, he was 250, about 6'4", and I'm 6'4" myself, but I'm like 205, 206. So the guy had like 45 pounds on me, and it was an eye opener because I didn't know what I was getting into, and the guy completely smashed me my first day there. So I was like, wow, do I really want to do this and everything? And I felt kind of bad after the first class because I was like, man, is this what this is going to be like? I really don't want to kind of do this. This is not what I really signed up for. Because when I really signed up for it was just kind of alleviate stuff with what was going on with me, kind of get some frustration out and everything like that, and,
sure.
and actually stay in shape. Because I wasn't able to do a lot. But yeah, the first toss he threw on me, and then he landed on me and freaking cracked open, like at least bruised my sternum, not almost cracked it, and it hurt bad.
I know what you mean.
I was like out for I think I was out for almost 2 weeks after that. It's like, man, like I can't be doing this. So right. I called my instructor and I told him what was going on, and he goes, man, I'm gonna tell you right now. He goes, you will get bumps and bruises, and you will get kind of beat up a little bit. But I'm gonna tell you this: most people within the first 2 months is their saving grace. Let's just say that either they stick with it or they leave it. And so here I am. I made it past the 2 months. I gave him 6 months because I didn't know what was going to go on. Because I usually don't quit things that easy. But I never did. He was shocked that I stayed with it for so long, especially with everything I was going through.
Sure. Yeah, man, it's tough, isn't it? That first experience or first week with the bruised ribs seem to be a pretty common theme, and nicked up knees is another one that happens a lot.
Oh yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to suffer both. So you tend to harden yourself up if you want to continue doing it. The pain sort of makes you harden yourself up to certain things, doesn't it?
Oh, by far, it's like most of them. I don't even complain about rib pains or anything like that. I just kind of suck it up. It's like the more of anything else, it's the muscle pain. That
right.
you get, especially when you get into a heavy roll match with somebody who's a little bit better than you. Especially the younger folk, man. It's like, you're sitting there at 48. It's like, man, now I know what my dad felt like when I was a young buck. So it was like, I'm like, you got to kind of turn it down here. It's like, I'm 48. I'm not no young buck trying to, to stay up with you guys, and because they just go in it just, full tilt, man.
Do you remember how far along you were when you realized that they were taking it easy on you?
The second week of class. Yeah, so what happened was, it was a purple belt about my second or third weekend. And the guy just totally trashed me. And those old mules that just don't want to give up, don't want to do anything.
Right.
You can beat them all you want. They just don't want to do anything. Well, that was me. They was like, "Hey, just tap, man." I was like, "No, I ain't tapping." And he wrenched on my shoulder, and I heard it pop a little bit. And I was like, "All right, I better tap on this one." And I was kind of out for a while, but I kept going, man. And I kind of jacked it up even further. Nothing severe, but just, just some bruising, some little bit stretching that shouldn't be stretching.
Right. No doubt. So the universal lesson here is what? Is to tap out more often, right?
oh yeah, tap when you feel it going, man. Just don't think you're that young guy anymore. Oh, I can do this. I can break out of this. No, it doesn't work like that anymore. Not with the damage we've been through when we went to the military, kind of just trashing ourselves.
So the at 48, you've got to make allowances then in your 40s, but you can do this, right? I mean, you've been doing it for a year, so I mean, tapping out earlier, sooner, not getting an ego about shit's probably a good idea. But I mean, any other wisdoms that you've kind of, or ways that you sort of survive this now?
Oh, I go to a lot of people talk about going every day and everything, but when you're a 48-year-old guy, you got to kind of listen to your body. Honestly, if one of my instructor's master, if you want to call it, he came from Brazil. His first name is Gigi. That's what they call him, Gigi. And I cannot pronounce his name, so I'm not going to even try it. So he came to a seminar, and I got to talk to him here in Boise. And I asked him to say, hey, I'm 48. Any advice for me? And I think this is like the most enlightening advice that he could give me. He goes, you are 48. You can't be rolling like the young bucks anymore. He goes, you got to listen to your body. And what you need to do is just, what do you say? Just kind of concentrate on one thing at a time. And so, because I was just trying to learn everything at one time, and my brain was just getting mixed up because I was trying to absorb it all like a wet sponge, just trying to suck it up, or a dry sponge, right? Yep. And so I'm like going, man, it's just killing me, because that was the frustration of the whole thing, is how do you guys figure this all out? Because it's like there's just so much going at you at one time, and I was like, what? So he told me, he goes, just work on one thing. So ever since then, it was probably back in, I think it was mid-July when I went to this seminar with him. And he told me, he goes, concentrate on one thing and listen to your body. He goes, you can't roll every night. You can't do this. So if you only go 2 to 3 times a week, that's what you do. He goes, the art is going to be around as long as you want, as long as it's alive. So you want to be around, but if you keep beating yourself up and hurting yourself, you're not going to be around that often, because you're going to be to the point where you can't do anything anymore. And so I took that advice to heart. And so what I did was I just concentrated more, like at the beginning, more on defense, how to defend and defend and defend. And then I was only going 2 to 3 times a week now. And it's helped on my conditioning. It's helped on my recovery, and actually just overall health, if you want to call it.
Well, you sort of get toughened up because you're going through the reps.
Yeah.
There's one of the things that John Barrows, who's our professor, excuse me, told us was, because I asked him, I was like, what do I need to do for exercises? And he goes, come to class. Because he goes, jiu-jitsu shape is a whole different type of shape that you really can't work out for it per se. So
no, you can't. I mean, what you can do is, and I've kind of learned this, and this is kind of funny because I love doing this, is I just ride the bike. Because you can sit there, with jiu-jitsu, and this, is you got the like, if you want to call it, as I call it, the bike mode. You start off all easy, you kind of just working yourself into it. Then all of a sudden you go, and then that's like, you're trying to get up a hill because you're grappling somebody bigger than you. So you're trying to use an extra force, but you got that, your lung capacity, because you're trying to breathe correctly. And I kind of incorporate that with a bike. If you're sitting there trying to go up a hill, you got to keep a nice, slow, steady pace, and you got to keep your breathing at a constant. You can't hold your breath because you'll just burn out quicker. The bike kind of burns your whole body because you're putting all that strain on you, and you're trying to move something that's underneath you. Granted, it's not as much as a person on top of you, whatever, but it still kind of helps you out with that.
It's kind of funny, isn't it, how when you're in the middle of literally trying to strangle somebody unconscious, and they're trying to do the same thing to you, that you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I got to keep breathing. I got to keep breathing. Right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And it proves to you kind of how important that function is, especially in a hand-to-hand confrontation, right? I mean, it's nuts. But remember that first class though, man. Remember running out of oxygen, where you were like, oh my God, I can't breathe.
Correct. My lungs were burning. I was like going, what the heck? And I couldn't even grip anything. My fingers hurt, dude. I think that's what I remember the most. It's because, because I do something kind of interesting, because I know you do a lot of no-gi, right? And
yeah, I'm 10th planet.
I do.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, and see, I do both. I do gi and no-gi. And
your fingers don't hurt as bad after no-gi, do they?
No, but I kind of like both a little bit, because especially around here, because you got the winter times, so I take those coats as the gi.
Oh sure, absolutely.
Those big heavy winter coats that people wear around here and everything. That's like that's a perfect gi for me, man. It's crazy, but it's just my fingers. I just noticed that my fingers have got calluses now, because I've just been tearing them up over the years, over the year and everything.
Do you tape up your fingers before class? A lot of guys do that.
Nah, I'm stupid. I just like the calluses. I'm a sucker for old punishment, man. The old line rat motto, man. You don't complain about anything.
No. Embrace the suck, right? I mean, that's all it is.
That's right.
It sucks. Yep. Okay. Now what? That's for sure. No, I do. Anthony Hamalainen, who's been on the show several times, a friend of the show here, is a guy I roll with at 10th Planet in Newark, Ohio. And he says it all the time that he absolutely you should roll both. You should definitely roll both. And I think it depends on what you're trying to get out of it too. If your sole focus is MMA, then I guess it kind of makes a lot more sense to focus a lot more heavily on the no-gi stuff, considering how combat takes place in MMA, right? In a ring, in shorts, no shirts, kind of thing. So there just isn't that clothing component to be obtained there. But if you're focusing more on self-defense and things like that, you've got to incorporate the clothing into the equation. And it's a big deal. I mean, it's like handholds all over a person that you can use to strangle the shit out of somebody with, right?
Oh, heck yeah. It's like, when I first started, I was getting choked, and I was like, how did you do that? So I was like, they were using my own clothing just to choke me out. I was like, how did you get me in this? So it was like, I was like a kid going in there with, first day of first grade, you know what I mean? Didn't know what the heck you were going to get into. Like, okay, what's this? And here I am getting tapped out, by somebody who's like almost 90 pounds lighter than me. I'm like going, what the heck?
Well, I've likened it to I think what it feels most like is drowning.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And I'm not saying that to put people off of it. I'm saying that it's that helpless feeling that I really thought I knew what I was doing. And then I realized I had no fucking clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
It's humbling. I think that's also a piece of it, man, that kind of separates people from this art, because if you have an ego that, you can't, let things go, or you probably won't make it for very long, because you've seen it. If you came into this class at 6'4", 205 with a huge chip on your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it would have made any difference?
No, not even close. No.
Right.
It's actually you get pissed off, because you thought, well, I know my crap. I know this. I'm
a bad dude. I beat people up in bars and shit, right? And then all of a sudden, some 14 or 15-year-old kid strangles the shit out of you with your shirt. It's like, wait, okay, hang on, reset that a second.
Yep.
Yeah, it's intimidating that first, but there is a light at the end of that tunnel. So sticking with it, but how long before you started to go, oh, wait a minute, I think I can figure this out?
And honestly, it took almost till, I mean, the middle of this year for me to kind of get a grasp. Like I said, if I think I would still have been lost if I went to talk to Gigi at one of my classes I went to, and if he didn't tell me to kind of just concentrate on one thing at a time, I think I would still been struggling. But it was that point where, I learned how to just concentrate on defense from getting choked out like in 2 seconds,
Yep.
From somebody, so I could defend against it. And then what I incorporated that into, which you might agree with me, is the best way to get somebody is to frustrate the living crap out of them.
Well, it's definitely a way to do it, for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I've learned, is, you got a guy, I got the super long legs, so when I put in full guard, it's like, it's like putting a twisty tie around you almost, and it's just
like
it's crazy.
I think it's called a body triangle, right?
Yeah, it's well, in a full guard, you kind of, you want to call it a body triangle, that would be correct. But we just call it the full guard kind of deal. And, I just put it in a lockdown. But I couldn't do anything because I wasn't learning how to do it correctly. How to get the hips off the mat just enough to put it on the, so your hips are up on his hips more than you're on the ground,
Right.
And I wasn't learning none of that because I wasn't concentrating on just one thing. So when I started learning just defense, it opened my eyes up, and I've gotten people to tap out, because they got frustrated and made one mental mistake, and I'm not saying that I can do it all the time. It's just now at least I know what to work on and how to incorporate that, from getting smashed all the time, but it still happens. I'm not saying by no means am I even decent, because I'm still a 16th into this art,
Yeah.
And so I got a lot to learn, and I understand that if you think that you think you're already getting it and everything, then you're gonna get toast, man, because that's when you kind of get the arrogance, if you want to call it,
Sure,
because you think you know everything, and it's just that's not the way it is. You got to go in there and say, hey, I didn't know this, and by no means do I know everything, because you don't.
right. Well, what kills me about it is, and this is a full admission, I mean, you would say that shrimping is a fundamental technique in the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Oh,
it's like a day one kind of thing, right? I mean, it's a, here's shrimping 101, how to get out from underneath somebody. And here I am, man, this far along, and I think I'm just starting to scratch the surface of kind of sort of maybe understanding how that works really. And you watch, I mean, like, I literally had to have Anthony's a purple belt, and John's is a brown belt under Eddie Bravo, and I mean after class we were rolling pretty hard, and finally I just looked at him and said, why don't you fucking guys please teach me how to shrimp? Like, I don't, something's wrong, because I watch you guys do it and it's like, shit, how did you do that? And when I try to do it, it's like, a fish flopping around on a beach, gasping for air. It's awful. But there's, what's funny about this stuff is that for me, man, as an engineer, I like to solve puzzles. That's kind of my gig. It's what I do. Yeah. I try to, I'm an automation engineer to boot, right? So what do? I take chaos and turn it into order. That's kind of what I do. And so there's a part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that has intrigued me on the of like or something like that, something that's got some dimension and levels to it that is more than just stand here, put your feet here, and then punch shit, And and so to that, I mean, that's why, I mean, the physical part of it was one of them things that just kind of ultimately just sort of went away. in the sense that I made the deal, you know, I made the deal with my body and said, okay, here's how often we're going to do this if you'll let me do it, okay? You know, like like the advice you were given, you know, you got to really listen to your body. So, I kind of made the deal, but the physical part you sort of plateau, and then it's the mental part of it I think is really where that's where the gold is. You know, I think that's those little minute details that you learn, like someone going, you know, I'm a year in here, someone please tell me for the love of God how you actually shrimp, you know, and you know, and things like that. There's these finite little details that are in it that are almost maddening, right? And I think you know, is there a part of that brings you back to it over and over again?
Dude, it's based off of fundamentals, man. I mean, like you said, and I kind of, you know, the class I go to is they teach the fundamentals almost like the first 10 minutes, nothing but fundamentals to begin with.
Right.
You know, they make a shrimp up and down the mat, you know,
Yep.
at least 4 times.
Yep.
You know, so and if you don't do it right, they make you stop and say, okay, no, you gotta, you know, bring your leg up and kind of get your body, you know, get on your shoulder and get your butt off the ground, man, and push it out. You know, it's like pushing your butt out. It's like, oh, okay, you know, and
there's
so now shrimping almost. Well, go ahead.
And there's a valid reason for that too, right?
Oh, heck yeah, because shrimping is like, especially when you're on the bottom, man, you're getting smashed on the bottom. No way you can get out. It's shrimping. You better learn it because if not, you're toast, dude. And shrimping's been kind of saved my bacon about 10, 15 different times. I can easily count on one hand, you know, count on.
Yeah, it's crazy how and those fundamental little things so it doesn't take. I guess the point I was saying was, you know, you had focused on or the point I was trying to make was you had focused on defense. And so what I say is, how long does it take for somebody to just become a big pain in the ass, right? So you can't maul them like you used to, because now they know how to frame, they know how to you know, and grapple, and they know how to hold, you know, put you in lockdown. They know some of these things, so you start kind of fundamentally learning how to slow the attack down first, right?
Correct. Well, it's not really slowing it. Well, I guess you would call it slowing the attack down, but it's also kind of knowing what they're trying to do. Because a lot of times, as I'm learning this, and I'm still slowly learning this, is you can kind of, it's like a chess match. You know how like you're an engineer, you're taking chaos and putting it in order? Well, I count it as chess because you're taking your pawn, your rook, whatever, and you're making a move and seeing what he's going to move with. But then a lot of times you hold off, and then he's going to make a move, and you just counter move what his move is. So I count it as a big chess match, you know, and I'm slowly learning what the pawn does and what the bishop does and what the queen does, you know, and that's probably the easiest way I could put it. And it's actually kind of funny that way. And so now I can move my pawn, you know, 2 or 3 times before something happens. Usually I could just barely move my pawn and I was getting tapped.
Sure, right.
And it was frustrating, you know, but now I can move a pawn or two before I get tapped. So, you know, and my lockdowns are a little bit tougher than what they used to be, because I used to gas my arms out because you didn't have what they call the jiu-jitsu arms or the jiu-jitsu muscle, you know, because your arms would just get so tired, you know, that they call the lactic acid, you know, burn up in your arms because you've been grappling so long, you know, for, you know, what seems like 2 hours and it's only been like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And your arms are just burnt out from just holding somebody, and you just can't hold on anymore. And that's what I noticed. My hand strength has gone through the roof too. You know, and it's like, it's just, you know, I can just tell the difference in my grip now. It's funny.
Now, did you ever have that nirvana moment where you were in class and somebody you end up paired up with somebody who's brand new? So you sort of are on the other end of that spectrum now, watching this person drown and feeling sorry for them as they're drowning.
You know, it's kind of funny. And you know the kind of person I was, or, you know, I have always been, and when I see new people come in, I tell them, it's like, listen, man, just take it with a grain of salt. You are going to get smoked, and it's going to hurt. But but I'm not that kind of guy, because I've been there, I've done that, and I won't do that to a new member coming into class.
It's what our professor says all the time, guys. Remember, and after you're done, this person's going to then do it to you. When we're training and stuff. So it's like, be very gentle on this one, because this one loads up quick, or we get there's that. But especially like after class open mat kind of stuff is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, and we just got a new guy in the class, and he was gassed like after about 2 minutes of doing it. He was like sucking wind and everything, and I still get stuck. I did my first open mat this past week, and it was kind of interesting. It was a no gi open mat, pretty much.
Oh, you gotta elaborate on that. Come on, tell us about it. Well, how was it?
Oh, dude, I was burnt like after 20 minutes, man. It was that was my first full time open mat, and I got tapped quick. It was the first couple minutes was okay, I was all right, but it's just because normally in normal class you only roll it for like maybe 5 minutes, and then class is over, because the rest of it's pretty much instructional. You're just taking it easy on the guy,
right?
Kind of learn the technique. But man, this was just straight up open mat. What we were doing, we were doing a what would we call it? It's like you would switch roles twice, and so basically they would start off with back mount, or full mount, side control, full control, whatever, or full mount, and you would have to guard or escape. It depends on what you were where you were at.
Yep.
Yeah, So, but it was just straight up. It was no drills anymore. It was just straight up. You escape, or you make the other guy tap, one of the two.
Right.
So if you're on top trying to keep control, that was your job. You try to keep control. Well, if you're on the bottom trying to get out, you were trying to get out and or tap the guy.
Right.
So it was tough. The first 10, 15 minutes I was all right, but then that last roll, like it totally took everything out of me. I was like sucking wind for a while. I had to take like a 10-minute breather, and then I went back at it, and even one of the young guys was like, after 30 minutes, like, man, I need a break, and my instructor, he was like, you guys weren't doing this right. You guys shouldn't be like getting gassed or, switching out that quick at the beginning. That was telling me you guys were just going crazy, balls to the wall, when you guys shouldn't be doing that, because what's going to happen at the end of the class. You guys are going to be gassed. So it was kind of a good eye opener. So I learned a lot that night, saying, okay, I'm not going to go full bore when class first starts up, because there's nothing to learn from it. Because you held out, you escaped, but at the end, it went from like saying like every minute we were switching at the beginning of class to like the end of class. It was almost like a full 5 minutes before somebody yelled switch because somebody got either escaped or choked somebody out or tapped somebody out.
Yeah, it's funny, right?
It was nuts.
When you dump everything into one match, and then you're like, oh shit, we got to do that again. And then all of a sudden you got to start thinking in your mind again. It goes all back. Okay, did I breathe? Am I breathing? Am I, conservation of energy? That survival is a lot more than just, being able to, explode. It's a lot more than that, right?
Oh, yes. But a ton more, because you got to learn, because, especially how they taught it, in the fight, it's all about explosion. That first, like, couple, 30 seconds is going to be the critical point, but it's the long game that you got to learn, it's because it ain't always going to be over in 20 seconds sometimes. And so it's kind of nuts. And I kind of learned that in this last my first roll. I'm definitely going to do it again, because I was kind of beat up though. I had some trashed out arms and everything because there was no gi. So because we have an open mat no gi, and we have an open mat gi times. So it was kind of interesting.
So you've only done the no gi open mat right now, right?
Correct. And I was actually going to go to my my gi open mat this last Wednesday, but my arms were super trash still from trying to keep a hold of somebody. And that's one thing I kind of noticed in the gi and no gi. It's like in the gi, at least you got something to grab onto. In a no gi, man, it's like when you start sweating and everything, everybody's body's all wet, just sweaty. It takes a lot to keep a hold of somebody. It really is. And
especially if they know what they're doing, right? I mean,
well, then you get the mat gets all wet and everything, so it's just kind of like a hot mess.
It's not as gross as it sounds, though.
No, it isn't, but it kind of is too, because you get sit there, you're switching with people, and you're just like going, man, you can't even grip on the mat anymore because the mat's so wet and everything. It's just kind of crazy wet, and it's like, really? And it's like it's on the squeaky floor when you first get to the mat. Kind of shoes on a basketball court, you kind of squeak, and bam, when it gets wet and everything, it's more like an ice rink, dude. You can't even plant your foot anymore. And it's like, okay, this is kind of crazy. So you don't even use your legs half the time.
Though, man,
it's all fun.
that kind of is an important thing, though, because if you were, say, in a physical the likelihood of most people getting into physical confrontation, if they wish to avoid it, is almost nil, right? I mean, we should probably say that. I mean, because you really generally do have a pretty good choice about where you go, who you hang out with, these kinds of things. But the point being is that you learn how fundamentals are so important when you can't get any traction. But you can still completely, it doesn't matter, a jiu-jitsu fighter. I mean, traction is just one piece of the equation. It doesn't mean that they still can't compete, or that they're not going to be able to, manage the situation if they were, say, on sand or something like that, on a beach or whatever, or on ice. I saw this crazy video, because I follow all the BJJ. Now I'm obsessed, right? All the different groups on Facebook and shit like that, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
You got to do it. It's you just got to jump in with both feet. And I saw this video. It was in the snow, and this guy swung at another dude, and he ducked under his arm and wrapped him and drug him to the ground face first so fast. And there was and they were just, and there was no, and then he was on top of this guy, knee on belly, just pounding him. Just like bam, 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 and it's like, oh, okay, traction optional, got it. It's just
exactly. Yep. I think we had a guy that one of our students get into a brawl and everything. Went to the bar, went to the wrong thing and everything. And we found out about it. And my instructor, he was like, he came to the class that night. He was like, listen, guys, he goes, if you learn anything, he goes, a lot of it is stepping away. He goes, it's not worth it anymore. He goes, especially because something doesn't mean, just because you know it, you go out there and say, well, I can trash you, because you don't know who you're going to run up against.
It makes you respect. I tell you, you get a solid respect for the destructive capability of the human body, don't you? I mean, there is that piece of it.
Yeah, it is. But you kind of learn that, a lot of it, it's like, okay, yeah, I might know something, but you might know more than me.
You might also have a gun or a knife or a club.
Well, exactly. You just don't know what they're going to have. So a lot of it, like you said, is if you can walk away, if there's a door behind you, are you going to choose the door? Or are you going to choose to stand up and listen to some drunk dude, swearing at you?
Right.
Really, is the words hurting you so bad that you have to stay? Is those words cutting you like a dagger? No.
Oh, God, no. Right.
Away.
Yeah, it's so easy to move away from it, too, man. But there's a piece of this that's like this, I think. When you've been strangled by like a 13-year-old kid repeatedly, and there's not a damn thing you could do to stop them, like to continue doing that, you've got to sort of learn to leave that chip off the shoulder. Because that same kid that just did that to you, the kid that did it to me, right? I think his name is Austin or Ashton.
Yeah.
One of the two. Anyway, because I went, how are you doing that? And then they turn around and show you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's a component here where you've got to learn to let that ego shit go. And when you kind of, I tell people this all the time, man. When I get out of class, I could give a shit. You couldn't get me to fight you. I mean, you really just couldn't. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, there's no aggression left. It's over. Whatever.
Oh, no doubt.
Cut me off in traffic. Whatever. I don't give a shit. You know, I'm going home safe.
Yeah, well, that's another thing is because I get so aggravated with what's going on with me and my vision. I just, there's a good outlet for everything. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not. I'm not going in there to think I'm going to trash somebody. It's just a good outlet for my frustration. It makes me think about something else than what is actually going out there. The way I see it is, I leave when I walk through that door, I leave everything that I can that's happening to me out that door. Because one thing you don't want to do is bring in that anger and that frustration and that, that hatred of what's going on with you into that room, into that class. Because one, you're going to hurt yourself, and two, you could probably hurt somebody else, and you don't want that. And then you don't want to be that guy that nobody wants to roll with because, you're a jackass kind of deal. And it's, and it's tough. Right. And I learned that early, because I told him, I was like, man, I'm just frustrated and angry all the time, and he told me, he goes, leave it. He goes, I know it's tough, what's going on, but you got to learn how to leave it at the door, and I've learned that. So my learning and my experience with it now has gone up like 200%, man. And, it's like crack, it's like, that's all I do is watch YouTube. BJJ site, jujitsu, teach me grappling, stuff like that. It's just crazy just watching these guys, and it's like, it's almost like intoxicating when I'm sitting there watching it, because I was like, ooh, I know I'm gonna try that next time. I'm gonna try that next time, and just learning some stuff as I go. So and for instance, I was having a hard time getting out of this gal's half guard, she was locking down my leg. And I was like, man, I can't get out of this, And I was watching, I looked at a couple of different websites, or some YouTube channels. I was like, oh, and when we got back to no gi, man, she got me in that lock again, and I was able to escape it, and I felt so much better. I didn't care whatever happened after that. As long
it's funny, the women in this sport tend to hurt you the most. Have you noticed that?
Yes, they do. Yep. Well, the lady that's going to my going to the no gi class, she has a black belt in Jeet Kune Do. So she's just crazy strong. And it's just weird because you can't sit there and you can probably attest to this. You can't make a female tap the same way you can make a guy tap in the same way for the most part. You got to learn something differently. And I don't know if it's because it's something in the back of your head as a guy. Like I don't want to trash, I don't want to just totally just lay on you and just squish you, because you still kind of have that respect for women and everything. And that's what I run into, but then I'm just getting smoked by them. I was like, okay, I got to figure something else out.
Oh, they'll kick the shit out of you, man. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You got to get over that. Yeah. You got to get over that.
Yeah, I know. It took me it took me 2 classes to learn that. Say, hey, she's going to make you tap. You better learn how to, get past this. She's woman. Don't treat her bad. It's like, no, she's learning just like you. So you got you guys get on your game.
Oh man.
And so after that.
It's crazy.
I did that.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I've had my neck cranked. Shout out to Whitney. I've had the back of my leg bruised for 2 weeks. Shout out Anna. Okay, and then just most recently it was Tara. Man, God, we were doing some drills in class, and I mean, I couldn't walk straight for like 2 weeks after that. It's like, because it was just the exhaustion. My legs were just shot after that class. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the ladies in BJJ are for fucking real, man. I mean, they're out there competing at the same level as anybody else. And that's what's really great about it, kind of, is that it's a weird sort of equalizer. And the women in this will fuck you up, man. They will hurt you
In a
bad
heartbeat.
if you go in there all chumpy. Oh, I don't want to hurt the girl, man. Okay, you do that. Good luck.
Yep. She tapped me out like 4 times in a row, and I was like, where the hell did this come from? I'm like, what? I was like, holy cow, and my instructor pulled me and goes, Mike, what happened to you? I was like, oh, no, she fucking tapped me, man. I was like, I don't know what she did to me. I was like, usually I can block this stuff. And she goes, I know what you did. I was like, you're respecting everything. And I was like, I guess I did. He goes, dude, she's here just to learn just like you and everything. So it's kind of crazy. And I was like, all right. So he goes, you don't try to kill them, but just respect them as another student.
Yeah.
They're not going to take it easy on you. So
right.
You just reciprocate what they're doing. If they're going easy, you go easy. If they're not, then you just do what you need to do.
I tell you, I see these articles all the time. They pop up on, I don't know if you've seen them. They pop up on my Facebook news feed, and they're like, I don't know why this seemed to be a thing. It came through like all of them for like a month, and it was how to roll with females in BJJ, and I just thought it was comical. I'm like, how to roll with females? You fight for your fucking life just like you do every other time you roll in BJJ. It doesn't matter. All of a sudden, like real quick, you start to realize, oh, wait, I'm trying not to die here. And you kind of forget that you're rolling, with a woman because that woman's trying to strangle the shit out of you, So, beyond that, I never really kind of understood the need for all of that kind of conjecture because get on the mat and try it. And real quickly, you start to realize that your gender doesn't really matter too much. I mean, it does, but in that sense, I think the Gracies somebody called it the Boyd belts. You ever heard that term?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and that's a respect. That's a thing where you're respecting size, speed. You're trying to respect. What advantage this person would have over you just because of natural selection, right? Because they're great big or
Correct.
whatever. And I think that technique is just the great equalizer, and that's one of the things that women, especially smaller women, the 5-foot variety, they just focus so heavily on technique. And man, if they just catch you. That's what they have. That's their because they're not going to beat you on size and strength, so they're just going to crush you with technique. There's like so many it's like a 3-legged stool, and in a sense, right? You have all these different, you have your physical qualities plus, your physical attributes plus technique and understanding. So, and you can like maximize one of those things, and it'll give you an advantage over someone that's bigger than you. It's crazy, but you can do it. It's right.
Oh yeah, I had a guy that was, I think it was he's 255, 260. Me and him are like, we roll together, and he's a purple belt, and he's a great guy, but man, he just, and he just smushes me, because, he's about my height, but he's like 250, 255. He's a big guy, man. And he's lost weight, but he's a great guy. He's he'll tap me, but then he'll tell me how it happened and why he got it, and so, but my defense has gotten so much with my technical defense, if you want to call it, for my technique on it, has gotten a little bit better. Is I'm stopping him a little bit better. He still taps me, but it's not like 2 seconds into the roll and he's tapping me. It's more like, I give it 15 seconds, 20 seconds now. And he goes, "You've
small
gotten
victories,
a lot better."
right? You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Back of my mind, I'm doing backflips. I was like, "That's right, man. I've defended against you." So it was kind of cool. And I think one of my best moments was this past Monday when I went to my no-gi roll. The main instructor was there, Brad, and the one thing he gave me, he goes, "You almost got me," and I was like, "All right," because he goes, I was supposed to escape out of his guard, and I escaped just for like a second, and I almost, because I'm a tall, lanky guy, and I almost did like a handstand on him, and kind of just bring my legs straight up and just did like a splits and just get out of it. And I did it once before on him, way long ago, and I was able to get out of it. But after that, he kept catching me. Well, this time I kind of did it a little bit differently, and I had it out for like a second, And I was just about to pass his guard, and he caught me again. And of course, time was up, and he goes, yeah, you almost had me. And I was like, I was happy, but I was a little bit frustrated because I was like, I almost had him. Just to get out of the guy's guard would have been like just total like a win-win situation for me. Just saying, that's right, I got out of your guard, and I wasn't gonna go to brag it, but just like a self-winning, this
sure.
moment, just like, that's right, I did it. Going away, and you kind of like tap him at, he's like, yeah, kind of like, you're like, I did this. This is freaking awesome, and but I still love it, and I think if you get to the point where if you don't have fun with it, you don't need to be there. If you're just there just to go through the motions, where okay, yeah, we're doing this again, I don't think you should be going there, because, like I said, you're not doing yourself justice or the class justice for what you need to be doing, and it just doesn't help. It's not beneficial for anybody, actually.
George St. Pierre says that the growth is done in the days when you don't want to do it. But I think you're right about you don't want to take bad energy or a bad attitude or a negative, because you got to be receptive to learning.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of absolutely. You don't want to go in and because then you're wasting your time and you're wasting everybody else's. You're wasting your rolling partner's time for sure.
Oh yeah, correct. I kind of want to jump back to this Tucson thing that I talked about earlier.
Okay.
It was kind of interesting. I get there. This is going to be a staggering fact I'm about to tell you, because I did not know this, and this kind of changed my whole life around for what I'm doing BJJ for now. A lot of it was, like I told you, was for getting rid of the frustration and just keeping it fit, right? Well, when I was down in Tucson, I met a bunch of guys down there, and Tucson was just a blind rehab center down there for all military veterans, just kind of get this out. And I met a bunch of guys down there. There was a guy down there legally blind, and the guy, I mean, he was requested legally blind, but he had like center vision, just like 10% of his center vision left, which is just crazy. Everything else is completely black.
Wow.
And he knows like 2-3 different forms of martial arts. A lot of it is, I think one of it was like Krav Maga, and then there's 2 other forms I can't remember. I wish I could. Me and him hit it off really well. And it was kind of interesting because when he started losing his vision, he kept getting targeted. And I was like, well, what do you mean you kept getting targeted? He goes, well, people think when you see a cane that you are an easy target.
Yeah,
because you're
weak, vulnerable.
Yeah, you're not. Well, exactly. And kind of instruct people right here. Just because you see a guy with a cane does not mean he's blind. Just because you assume that's your own problem.
Sure.
Because I use a cane now, but it's more for it's called what they call an objective cane. Because of my right eye is so bad that I have to kind of look down at the ground to see where I'm going, because my center vision is so trash. So anything that's coming up in my center vision, I can't see it on the right side a little bit, for the most part. So I use the objective cane for areas I don't know. So like if I went to a different part of the city I haven't gone to a lot or anything like that, but like, my area around my house or, my work area where I, go there on a daily basis, I don't really need it because I know the layouts on where everything's at, But he told me that a lot of it was, there were a lot of, about, I would say 50 to 60% of people who with vision impairments are targeted because they, like you said, they're they deemed weak.
They're perceived as vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I started thinking about that, I was like, all right, I said, I don't want to be that statistic, And so when I came back, I sat there and I talked to the 2 guys that have been doing my training, to Brad and Dustin. And I was like, listen, man, I got to kind of change up what I'm doing here. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I don't want to be a statistic, man, just because I'm carrying this cane. Now don't get me wrong. I'm not going out there looking for crap, but I just don't want to be that statistic, like, hey, and get me wrong. He said to go, dude, they want your wallet. Just give them your wallet. just walk away, you know, but it gets to the point where they're going to rough you up, then at least you know what's going on, you know, because for anything you can, if they just want your wallet, just give them your wallet. You can get your crap back later. You can get everything new again. You know, you just kind of play it by what the subject matter comes up to. And so this was kind of humbling. And so I kind of started thinking of my teaching of, my learning of BJJ a little bit differently. And so now we're getting into more of the hands-on, like street scenario stuff for BJJ than more just learning what the technique of, mat, gi, no gi, stuff like this. It's more no gi, but with a street defense added to it. And I'm starting to learn that, and it was kind of interesting. I learned a couple of different locks just from the standing position, which was, I was like, okay, I didn't even know this, and they're all one-on-one training sessions, but I want to incorporate it for what is going on with me, and stuff like that. And so we're slowly getting to the point where we're going to start putting on like the MMA gloves. So I know what it feels like to get tagged in the head or in the ear or the jaw, the body. So when I was going to say,
you're going to start adding strike defense and stuff to it too.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly. So we're slowly incorporating that. So when I do get tagged, I'm not all, okay, what do they do now? Because, getting hit and continue on what you need to do is a little bit differently than just rolling.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because you already know what you're doing.
I'm sure wrapping somebody up is a technique, just like a heel hook is a technique, or an ankle lock. The Americana is a technique, right? So, I mean, imagine wrapping some first, in a striking situation, figuring out how to wrap somebody up is step one, because you got to close that distance to keep them from hitting you anymore.
Correct. Yeah, it's kind of scary, because especially with, if you're coming from a side I can't see that well, then I kind of need to learn how to react when I have to. But like I said, luckily I still have my peripheral stuff and everything, so it's not as bad. But I just don't want to beat that statistic, because I know my vision is going to get bad or worse, let's just say, as time goes on, and I can see coming on slowly, because I've seen the symptoms for in my left eye that I saw in my right eye. So I'm just waiting for my left eye to just go, because it is predominantly my worst eye, and so I'm kind of incorporating all that stuff just so I know what to do, or at least how to react to a situation. But but they always emphasize, dude, just walk away if you can. Just give them the wallet.
Yeah, sure.
Give them whatever they need. Just walk away. Just to get out. And then do what you need to do. But it's the situation where they want to do physical harm to you because they're trying to prove that, hey, you don't belong on the sidewalk, or I can kick your butt because I'm a punk or whatever, and I can kick a blind guy's butt, to make him feel more manly, or if you want to call it, then at least I know how to react to that situation.
Right. Yeah, you can absorb it. It's and I think in that type of thing, it's a survival thing, right? This is self-defense more than it's competition Brazilian jiu-jitsu or anything like that.
Oh, by a whole means, man. I just, like I said, it's kind of I've kind of learned it a different way now, and I've looked at it through a different, through different set of eyes. In the blind rehab, it was just nuts, man. I was like, what? And so I kind of came back, and I was on the flight back. I was just thinking about it. It's like, okay, I'm setting this up. I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to work on this. And so, I mean, granted, I'm still doing the same thing, but I'm more focused. I'm not angry or nothing like that, but I'm just more focused on learning more items. So I'll stay after class, say, hey, you did this. What do I need to do to do this?
Right.
And what about this situation? Or, so I'm just like I'm just a blank page, give me an ink and I'm writing down all this information, everything I can. Cause it's like I said, when my vision gets to the point where it's worse, I want to be at least prepared, for some situations. I'm not going to be prepared for every situation, because you don't know what's going to happen. You can't be that way, because every situation is going to be different. There's not one situation that's going to be identical every single time if it comes up. but at least I'll know what to do on some certain situations. I can at least handle it.
You know, those after class sessions, I envy. I do the adult morning beginners jiu-jitsu classes, and then there isn't an advanced that follows it. Those happen in the evenings at the gym I go to.
Yeah.
And I think about that sometimes, how important those after class roles are, and man, I've learned so much shit in those sessions after class. Whereas if you were going to like the evening class, you know, the adult beginners, it's like, okay, the beginners are done, get out, you know, or I think you can stick around and kind of watch, but then the advanced class comes in. So, I guess from that standpoint, you can kind of watch, but man, I learned so much in those kind of impromptu, like, oh, here's a real interesting, you know, spin on this one little thing here, and to really take a deep dive into it, whatever it might be, you know. But man, it's important that you do those kind of things, and I think it's also important to your instructors to see you doing that. Because these guys, I mean, I don't know if you've, without exception, I haven't met a single person yet who, if you're genuinely interested in learning, that man, they're more than willing to teach. Like everybody's like, oh yeah, this is what I did to you, you know. Here, I'll show you. Nobody's got like a secret death, you know, Spock death move or anything like that they're holding out on. At least I haven't seen it yet.
Well, have you learned that even though they show you a technique, that you can always add something different to that technique?
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nuts that something might work for somebody, that technique might work for somebody this way, does not work for you that way.
Right.
You have to actually kind of incorporate something your own way. So that's when the light started clicking on me. I was like, holy cow. I was like, all right, just because they show you this way does not mean that all the way that it's not going to do it, you know, work that way. Like, you know, we were doing omoplatas, right? And I was sitting there, I was getting guys tapped out just by barely even lifting up on my leg, you know, because I had such crazy long legs that I could, you know, almost wrap your whole arm around my leg and just barely lift up on it.
Right.
And it's like other people had to like really wrench up and sit up and stuff like that, you know, but then other times it's like, you know, I had to tweak it this way because it was easier for them than it was for me, because I do have such long arms or long legs. So I had to kind of think about, okay, I got to do it this way, you know. And what I like about it is, you know, especially in jiu-jitsu, is not everybody's built the same. You know, you got short, tall, skinny, fat, whatever, you know, strong, you know, weak, whatever you want to call it. And then you got I call them the super freaks, you know, that it just comes natural to them, and, you know, it just flows like, you know, through butter for them. Nothing happens to them. And then you're like going, what? I just tried doing that and it just didn't work for me. He goes, I don't know what to tell you. And I was like, all right, you know, but you're just scratching your head like, all right, hey, you want to show me this again? And it was like, it just flows into it and not a problem. And then, you know, you're like a bull in a china shop. Okay, if I rinse you here and then, oh, wait a minute, hold on, let me adjust my leg around your neck. And then, oh, wait a minute, that was the wrong angle. And you're like, all right, you're like going, okay, I feel like a stupid person here, you know, and it's just insane. I just noticed that since I've been there.
Yeah, man, it's like a never-ending puzzle, I think, is kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I asked my professor one time. I said, he goes, any questions? One time I go, yeah, when's this shit supposed to start making sense? You know, and he went, he's like, you're never gonna figure it out. That's the point. It's gonna evolve forever for you, because as a human, you evolve. You know.
Yeah.
Definitely. So it's going to, like, I think this is probably going to be something, regardless of how bad your vision continues to get, Mike, that you're going to continue pursuing. You're just going to continue to morph it into what works for you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Easy. I mean, I've morphed it into me, to what I had to do, you know, and it's kind of interesting. Sometimes I roll, with my eyes shut, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of spooky. Because a lot of times people kind of lean, okay, if he's going this way, I can see that, you know. But if you close your eyes a little bit, through a roll, you can kind of actually feel their body move before they move. You remember when Bruce Lee would sit there and he would always say, "I saw your shoulder move before your arm moved."
Right.
Like right, he was throwing a punch. But it's kind of interesting when you close your eyes and you just kind of just let the roll go, you can actually feel somebody move before they actually move. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what you're saying is you're taking like a tactile response and a tactile approach to how you're learning this and learning what someone's going to do. You're not depending on your sense of sight necessarily as much, but maybe your sense of feeling a little more, given the close proximity that this martial art sort of employs. It makes a lot of sense that you would do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I was like, let me try doing this with my eyes closed. I'm gonna see what happens, And it was kind of weird that I just couldn't feel the way somebody moved. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like I could block everything, but it was just weird that I could feel them move before they move. And sometimes I could block, sometimes I could redirect, but it didn't happen all the time because it's still something new to me because I'm trying this out. And it's just really weird because you can feel like their muscles twitch, before they actually reacted, because your muscles going to have to react before you move. It's an instance, but you can just feel even a muscle just kind of tense up a little bit, and it's kind of interesting. And I've been kind of learning that the last couple times, and it's kind of an interesting way how to do it.
I think it's probably, Mike, one of those things that the people that are far more experienced than you and I probably already know and employ, but they didn't necessarily. But you don't necessarily start that way if you have a full sense of sight. You're going to pay more attention to your looking at what's happening versus necessarily feeling. And I think that the folks that are probably really, really good use both. And have already started developing what you're needing to develop ahead of time, I guess.
Correct. So, but it's kind of interesting. It was, and like I said, it's an ongoing build, but I think I'm going to start incorporating that a lot more from here on out.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. It's funny. When I was talking to Anthony, I keep, name dropping here guys from the gym, but these are the BJJ people I know, so that's what we're going to do. He said that too. He said, that when I told him that we were going to be talking and kind of what we were going to be talking about, and he was very intrigued by it. But he said, yeah, he goes, I totally get that. He goes, I sometimes do the same thing, that I think maybe he had heard it from someone too, to roll with your eyes closed, and learn to feel, also feel what your opponent's doing as well as looking at what they're doing. So that's why I think there is a puzzle piece there that includes that anyway. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So look, dude, this flowed like water, right? We've been blasting this away here at about an hour and 20 minutes. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover, specifically more, or man, I think it's probably worth doing some sort of get together with us old line dogs, and get a conference call going. That could be a lot of fun too. See stories.
We could get in trouble on that one, man.
But any shout outs or anything you want to make sure we get out there before we start kind of wrapping up here, bud?
Man, one person I have to give that shout out to is Jeff Cody, man. He's he always called him the Zen master, because he's always kept me focused and kind of got me back to my center point, and kind of get me to the point where I'm back into at least a halfway good frame of thought of mind. But man, Jeff Cody's been like a godsend to me when it comes up to when I'm having problems.
Well, we love him. He's also known as the Occidental Taoist. Jeff Cody, our friend of the show, has been on several times. And is a really good Navy buddy of ours. So shout out to him as well. So folks, that's it, man. Mike, this has been phenomenal. I'm glad you kind of came on and opened up and sort of spilled your heart about, your journey here in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and kind of some of the, challenges you faced in life and how you're overcoming them, man. It's inspirational as hell. And I'm glad you decided to do this with me on the show. So I'm looking forward to having you back on at some point. Like I said, we'll do some. Who knows? We'll just get on talk BJJ, or we'll get the fellow sailors on here, and then, like you said, we'll probably get banned by. So,
oh, man, it's Matt. Thank you very much, Matt.
Hey, bud. So that's it, folks. Thanks for listening. Check us out, noshitcast.com for all your podcast needs. Links over there on the right for about any place you could want to consume podcast media. Hey, we're putting stuff on Instagram a lot more now, folks. So check us out there too. No Shitcast on Instagram. I put a lot of shit that makes me laugh and things like that on there. Not necessarily podcast related, but whatever. I got a weird sense of humor. So thanks for listening, everyone. Really appreciate it. And more shows coming up. Like I said, we got Jeff Cody coming up here. And I think we're going to have the Gray Wizard of Historical Knowledge himself back on the show, folks. So should be a good time. And we'll catch you then. Take it easy. Bicycles. And that's it, man. That's how we do it.
That's awesome, man.